The Namib Desert and Sesreim in Namibia. Now this is an area that a lot of people get very confused about. Because people hear different places they've got to go and see, where do you stay? And the problem is, Sesreim, which is the entrance gate to the desert, is not actually a place. So it's not marked on a lot of maps. Sossussvlei, Big Daddy Dune, Dune 45, these are places to see that are inside the desert that you can only access by going through Sesreim. Let's explain to you the gate system. And Sesreim. First of all, Sesreim is not a town, it's not a place, it's the entrance gate into the national park where you go to see all the sites in the Namib Desert. So to get to Sossusvlei, Deadvlei, Dune 45, Big Daddy Dune, Big Mama Dune, and Elim Dune, you have to first pass through the Sesreim gate. And that's accessed from the main road and is opened at sunrise in the morning and closes at sunset. Then once you're through that gate, you've got this, like, let's call it a buffer area, where there is 4 places to stay: a petrol station, a shop, bar, restaurant, and then there's a second gate beyond those. Now that second gate is the gate that you go through to access to the actual desert itself. You drive through to go to all the sites in the desert. And that gate is open 1 hour before sunrise and closes 1 hour after sunset. So the advantage of staying at one of these 4 places inside the national park is that you can actually go through that second gate before the first gate is opened, 1 hour before sunrise, drive into your favorite location in the desert and watch the sunrise there. Whereas if you're staying at one of the accommodations outside, you can only enter that first gate at sunrise, which still means you can get into the desert to see all the nice colours. It's just you're 1 hour behind the people who can stay inside the park. Likewise, when you're leaving the park, you have to be careful. If you're staying at one of the accommodations inside the national park, you can arrive at the desert gate, let's call it, 1 hour after sunset and you'll be okay. But if you're staying outside the park, you have to be outside the first gate, the one that goes onto the main road, by sunset, which means you have to leave the desert earlier to drive through, because it's quite 65 kilometers from the Sesreim gate to Sossusvlei, where you want to actually see the sights. You have to leave an hour earlier to be able to exit the park by sunset. Now, by no means does it mean it's a disaster if you can't get accommodation inside the park, one of these places we're going to talk about. You just have to readjust how you see things. You're not going to miss out, so don't worry. The first camping site is the one that's been there a long time, is the Namibian Wildlife Resort's Sesreim campsite. And as you come in the main entrance and come down the road, there's a building on your right hand side, and that is the NWR office. But also in that area there's a shop, there's a restaurant, there's a bar, there's also toilet facilities, and where you pay your park fees are all inside that building. Behind that building is the Namibian Wildlife Resort's camping site. Now, it has grown through the years. They've expanded the number of campsites. So the traditional old campsites all used to have a tree in the middle and a wall around them. Then they had bins, an electric point, a light, a bright area, and a water tap. Now, as they've expanded, it's the edge of the desert. There isn't many trees. So they have expanded around all the other trees in the area to put campsites in. But there is some places that don't have trees to shelter. And then there's the spillover, which we'll not address today. So, and they don't allocate campsites either. So it's basically first come, first served. You turn up, unless it's one of the big group campsites, which is for the tour operators, you have to just go and pick whichever site is empty and go and stay there. So there's a bit different. One of my favorites is 47. Anyway, well, let's not go there. So that's where the campsite is located, and they are the actual campsites. Going through the campsite, although it is on the edge of the desert, you can access it in a normal car and with normal trailers. But as you get further into the campsite, the wind does blow the sand in. There is some sandy patches around the campsite. So especially if you're arriving late and it's a bit dark, do be particularly careful. There's a main road in that goes to the campsites, and then the road splits. past the ablution blocks, and then you've got more campsites. The further you go in, the more possibility there is for these sandy patches. So if you're in a normal car, just be aware of that. The other thing to be aware of when camping at Sesreim is that each campsite that's not got a wall around it, and even the ones that have, and certain areas where you can't drive, are marked off with these wooden poles put in the ground that are perfectly shin height. So A, you can walk in them in the dark, but also it's very easy to drive or reverse into them when you're reversing your vehicle or parking your vehicle at each campsite. In general, to give an idea of the size of the campsites, they sleep up to 8 people as standard, and will take 2 vehicles. So you could have 2 vehicles and 2 trailers, for example, and that would be fine, or 2 vehicles, but that's the maximum you put on. Some of the, if you have got a caravan, or there is spots where you can take a caravan in, you're probably not going to get into one of the treed walled sites, but there is other campsites towards the left-hand side behind the main building, where there's a much bigger area and there's more space to turn vehicles and trailers and caravans around. In the centre of the campsite itself, there's a swimming pool, which are free to use. And as I mentioned before, at the entrance where you check in and pay your park fees, there's a little shop there, which is nicely well equipped. There is a restaurant and a bar, and that's where Wi-Fi is available. Wi-Fi isn't available in the campsite, but it is available at the bar, restaurant, shop area. Also across the road from there, there is a petrol station as well inside the first gate. And have we covered everything there? Apart from the beautiful scenery. One thing I love about the Sesreim campsite is the sounds at night. Camping out there, you've got the desert sounds, the little geckos going, you hear the things the noises on the wind. It's very beautiful. Plus, as you know from me, the starry night. It is beautiful. That's the Sesreim campsite. The other campsite that's inside the gate is Sesreim Oshana camping. Now, by all intents and purposes, if you're looking at a map here and you come in, and this is the Sesreim NWR camping, Sesreim Oshana is just along the side here. So you can actually walk from Sesreim camping to Sesreim Oshana. They're literally the same piece of ground, shall we say. You can't drive between them, and the Sesreim Oshana camping is very different. One thing I did forget to mention with the Namibian Wildlife Resort Sesreim camping is that it's shared ablution. There's shared ablution blocks run by solar power, where you've got the wash basins, showers and toilets in, and there's several blocks dotted around the campsite. So you can decide whether you want to camp near one and have people walking past, or camp a bit further and have a longer walk from your campsite to the ablutions. The Sesreim Oshana, there's only 9 campsites, and they each have their own private space with a bit of shade, so you've always got shade, their own, and they have their own toilet and shower, which is locked with a key that only you get, so you have your own private ablutions and electric point and light and a water tap at your site. So it's a little more privacy there, and all the facilities. I say privacy, you're still camping, you're still wide open, everybody can see you, so it's not like a wall around it or anything, but you've got your own ablutions and your own spot to park. The 2 of the things to be aware of in the camping sites, both camping sites, they are beside the road that goes to the desert. So early in the morning, you'll start to hear people getting up, packing away, putting their things in, starting their engines, and then driving round, and then coming to the gate, which is quite close to both campsites, where they then queue and wait for the gate to be opened into the desert in the morning. So you are going to be awakened in the morning, but the chances are you're probably going to be going out to the desert yourself. So it's like an alarm clock. You get up, start packing away in the dark, ready to go into the desert and enjoy the desert sights. So that's the 2 camping sites, the NWR, or Namibian Wildlife Resort Sesreim camping, and the Sesreim Oshana campsites. So one's got communal ablutions, and one is got private ablutions. Let's put it like that. Let's start with the NWR Sossusvlei Dune Lodge. Now that's slightly separate from all the other accommodation. So when you come in past the first gate, the check-in offices for NWR are on the right-hand side, but if you're staying at Sossusvlei Dune Lodge, you can ignore them until you need to pay your park fees. You actually take the first turning on the left, which then goes along the fence. It goes past Sesreim Canyon, which the whole area is named after. Then there's another gate on the right-hand side, and you go through that, round the back of a little hill, and then you come to a parking area, and beyond that is Sossus Dune Lodge. Sossus Dune Lodge is an eco-friendly lodge. Again, it's in that style where you've got raised wooden walkways and chalets, tented accommodation and a thatched roof. So wooden floors, tented walls, thatched roof. So, and there's 25 of them, I believe, spread out either side of the main lodge, all which their own individual platform and their own individual view, and they're designed so you can't, when you're sitting on your deck looking out to the desert, you can't see the chalet to the left and the right. They're nicely designed like that. You've just got your, well, you can if you peer over the wall, of course, but the idea is you're sitting on your own decking looking out into the desert, and you can obviously see the sunset on that side, and you can watch, if you want, the sunrise coming over the desert from your deck shining onto it. So it's a little more exclusive and a little more private. The rooms are nice equipped. One thing to note, the rooms are not air conditioned. It's an eco-friendly lodge, and I know over the years they've resisted putting aircon in because they do want to preserve the desert, and aircon is very, very unfriendly to the environment. But I know there is plans afoot to possibly put aircons in the future, so that might change, but I can't see it changing for a couple of years. So the rooms don't have aircon, they do have a fan, they have beautiful comfy beds, they're nice spacey chalets. As you walk in, they're split into two sections. So on one side you've got the bathroom with sinks, shower, toilet and a place to hang your clothes. Then on the other side is the bedroom area where we've got the bed. There's usually a mini fridge, not stocked, just an empty fridge, tea and coffee station, which is renewed every day. Then there's the fan and there's a couple of relaxer chairs. And then you've got the nice windows with different levels of shading that you can put in front of the window that then look out onto the desert. Because you can actually put like dark netting on if you want to keep it dark, or you can put semi-netting on to let some of the light in, but not the sunlight shining in. So that's quite neat. Then there's obviously the exit out onto the big deck that each chalet has. So there's a nice decking at the outside of each chalet looking into the desert, and there's seats on there so you can enjoy and sit there and enjoy the sounds of the night. And of course for me it's perfect because at night time I set the camera up out there and leave it all night doing a time lapse over the desert. So that's the chalets at Sossus Dune Lodge, and at the lodge itself, so the lodge itself, there is a swimming pool just tucked in by the mountain behind the restaurant. There's a restaurant and bar area, then there's a relaxing lounge area, and in that central area is the only place that the Wi-Fi works. Again, it's not exactly fast-paced Wi-Fi. You can send messages, and it's free Wi-Fi for the guests, and usually if the code is up on the wall, or you can just ask a staff member. And that's all in that central area there. From that, the chalets spray out either side. So everybody comes to the centre to have their meals or drinks, or you can organise activities as they were, like the desert trip they will run for you. And then you have to walk along the walkways to your chalets. So there is 2 honeymoon chalets, which have double beds in, and they're at the extreme end of the walkway. And there's just the 2. So they're nice and a little more exclusive and a bit tucked further away, but they're also the furthest walk from the centre lodge. So that is Sossus Dune Lodge, and that's run by the Namibian Wildlife Resorts. The final accommodation that is inside the national park at Sesreim is the newest one, Deadvlei Lodge. Now that is on the right-hand side behind the 2 campsites. So we've got Sesreim NWR, Sesreim Ashana, then a little bit further along, you've got Deadvlei Lodge. It's separated away, it's nice and quiet, and it is set out looking over onto Elim Dune, or quite a popular sunset dune. So you've got a nice view onto there, particularly good at sunset time. And to the right behind it, you've got the Naukluft Hills, which is also, or Naukluft Mountains. Very beautiful. It is much more a luxury lodge. The lodge itself has got a swimming pool, restaurant, bar. You can organise activities for there. Again, they will do trips into the desert. You can also organise ballooning there in the central area, and it's very nice. It's sort of very. They've tried to blend it very. Again, it's environmentally friendly, so it blends very well with the desert. The design. There is some nice water trickling inside that gives you a cooler feel, but a lot of the central area is open, like no walls, which is really beautiful. So you get a lovely wind coming through, and you actually get beautiful views in all directions, and you really don't feel like you're inside. You really feel you're out in the desert. But you're sitting obviously on a decking in the restaurant area, but there's no wall down one side or two sides, so you can see out into the desert. There's a couple of water points close by, so quite often there's oryx walking to and from as well, so you can sit eating your oryx while watching the oryx in the desert. As I said, they've got a plunge pool as well. Wi-Fi, again, in that area works only in that central area where the restaurant, bar, swimming pool and reception area is. Beyond that, there you then walk, there's two sections of rooms going out like in wings either side. Each has a view into the desert. Now the rooms aren't air conditioned, but they're water cooled. So unlike Sossusvlei Dune Lodge where you've got a fan, I don't know if I mentioned that, you don't have aircon but you have a fan, these ones have air cooling. So it's like a budget version of aircon. So it doesn't work as effectively as aircon, but it does work much better than just having a fan. So they are quite good. So the rooms are water cooled, and as you walk into the room, they're split into two separate areas, a bit like Sossusvlei Dune Lodge, but in two buildings. So you walk into the central area, and there's like an area for luggage, and that's where the fridge is, where you can store your own drinks. It's not stocked, you put your own drinks in. If you go to the left-hand side, there's the bathroom, which has the toilet, showers, twin vanities, and all your towels, etc. in there. If you go to the other side, take the door to the right, you've actually then got your room. The rooms are lovely and spacious. This is like Sossusvlei Dune is a purpose-built lodge. So the rooms are nice and spacious, well equipped out, big beds, good linen. There's a writing desk, tea and coffee station, and a kettle is provided, a place to put your bags, mirrors, everything you're going to need to enjoy your stay in the desert. There are the 4 places to stay that are in between the 2 gates at Sesreim. So they're inside the first gate that opens at sunrise, closes at sunset, and in between that and the gate that closes at 1 hour after sunset and opens 1 hour before sunrise. So 2 camping sites and 2 accommodated. If you have any questions about them or want to know any more information, DM me on social media, I'll put the Instagram up, or just put a comment in the video below. Happy travels to the desert.